I knew that I wanted to change my life, and I knew something was coming because I'd gotten sick of pretending to be somebody I wasn't and waiting for somebody to give me an opportunity to express myself. And creativity has always been a very important part of my life, and I think it's been a huge part of my healing journey. I was transitioning to being behind the camera, and I was making my first short documentary. I just got sick of pilot seasons and sick of rejections, and I still love doing TV commercials, but I had gone back to school for photography and opened up this little photography business. I love telling stories in print or through documentary photography and filmmaking, and I wanted to be the director and tell other people's stories, not just my own. I had this plan to slowly leave acting and save enough money so that I could, but continue to do my TV commercials so I could pay the bills. And I was, again, making this little film. And then I got diagnosed and everything changed. It was Valentine's Day in 2003. I had this very rare cancer, epithelial angioendothelioma, a sarcoma. The thing about my disease, which is kind of crazy, is it is this kind of watch and wait, or as I like to say, watch and live experience, because it can be slow growing, it can be aggressive, it can start slow growing and become aggressive. You have to get a baseline to understand how it's going to behave, and again, that can change. So many patients don't have symptoms, and oftentimes it can be found randomly. Some patients do. It depends on where it is in the body. I had pain in my side. It started in my liver and then it metastasized to both organs. So the tumors in my liver are much bigger than the tumors in my lungs. I don't know what was going on, but for some reason I was having these pretty intense pains. And I went to my GP thinking it was gas. I had problems with constipation because I never ate a vegetable to save my life. I wasn't drinking water and I preferred drinking scotch. And there's a whole lot of other things. And so I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't a wellness warrior back then. I wasn't even a wellness wannabe, honestly. Just wanted to figure out my career, meet the guy, get the house. I wanted to get started with my life. So taking care of myself was always something I thought I would do later when I needed to. Make something of yourself, and later you'll learn about fiber. So anyway, I wasn't feeling well, and I finally hauled myself to the doctor, and he said, it could be your gallbladder. That's what it seems like based on the symptoms that you're describing. Perhaps we'll have to take it out. Let's take a look. And so he did an ultrasound, and the ultrasound came back with all these lesions all over my liver. And I often joke about this. I didn't know what lesions were. I wondered if they were cuts, how I freaking cut my liver, and if maybe scotch cut my liver. Then I got a CAT scan, and they found out that there were more tumors in my lungs, so it had metastasized. But we didn't know if it was cancer yet. I got my biopsy, and it came back this very strange sarcoma that nobody had heard of. I have such a strange disease that only affects maybe a couple hundred people per year in the US. There are only a few places that I think would be qualified to actually talk about the type of care you should get and understand what the prognosis is, how we should track it, and how it goes down. But I didn't go to those places at first. I had to become my own patient advocate and do a lot of research with the help of my friends and family. The first doctor that I spoke to suggested a triple organ transplant, but that's ridiculous. That makes no sense. And then the next hospital I went to just didn't know. So I went to another one, but I did 4 or 5 opinions. I was on my hands and knees, going within and just being still and listening for the direction. And for me, it was keep looking. These folks are well-meaning, but they are not the co-captain of your healing team. And so I kept looking. The next hospital that I went to gave me 10 years to live. And that was like a long time. They're like, look, you're lucky you have 10 years to live. At the time I was 31. I just turned 47. That wasn't good enough. I know that's not 10 months, and I'm grateful for that, but that's not enough time. I'm not good here either. And they also suggested radical treatments to slow it down, but nothing would put me in remission. So because we didn't know how fast it was moving, that didn't make sense either. So often we give away all of our power because we think that they know more than us. And in some ways, they do know a lot more than us, but nobody knows more about your body than you, and nobody knows your intuition like you. It's a partnership, finding that doctor people who will respect you. May not go for all of the decisions that you want to make, but they're going to treat you in a way that's respectful. That was so important to me. I finally found the doctor who, in my opinion, knows the most about my disease. And at the time, he wasn't taking new patients. I was just relentless about trying to get in to see him, and I finally did. My doctor at Dana-Farber is that person. He said to me, look, I don't know if you're going to like what I'm about to say, because back in those days, my only understanding of cancer is you get it, and if it's stage 4, you're probably going to die. And the only thing that you can do is surgery, chemo, and radiation, and that may or may not work. I had never been exposed to patients who live with cancer like I do as a chronic disease. So he was the first person that came along saying, I'm going to mess your head up a little bit. I don't think we should do anything. Now, he teaches at Harvard. He's saying to me, I don't think we should do anything. And I was excited and terrified because I really wanted it to go away. I didn't think I could breathe again and feel peace in my heart and in my mind unless it was gone. And so that was like a radical idea. He said, let's watch your weight and track you. We need to get a baseline. And then you live your life. Make the most of your life. Take care of yourself. And again, this was a new concept for me too. And I didn't know what that meant. So for those who know my story, I went from the hospital to Whole Foods. My parents were with me. We all grabbed shopping carts. I was crying, looking at vegetables like, I have to eat these things. I'm smoking cigarettes. I love Burger King. I drink way too much. I work in a bar. I have a very stressful job that's filled with rejection and feast or famine all the time. I have a lot of issues with anxiety and depression and self-loathing. And overall, if I were to do an inventory of my life at that point, I wasn't that happy and I didn't feel good. I was chronically constipated. I had eczema, I had inflammation, I had all of these other things. And you know what? I knew something was coming. 2 years prior to the experience, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying, if you keep going the way you're going to get cancer. And so when I went to Whole Foods, it was just basically like, what I'm doing isn't working. That store has things that are healthy. Don't know how to use them, but you should go in that store. Long story short, there was a book there, and it started with a book, but eventually it led me to raw foods. I grabbed that book and put a lot of vegetables in my cart, not knowing how to use them, not knowing how to make them, not knowing that they didn't have a shelf life like Spam or canned good. But I bought cookbooks and I started to take weekend workshops. The books that I found at the time were geared towards people who were older and folks who didn't have the sense of humor I had and the life goals that I had. So I was finding stuff like, you've been through the second divorce, your kids are in college, you're older and you have cancer. And I'm like, whoa, I'm at the prime of my life and I'm not sure how to navigate, not only in the kitchen, but like socially, spiritually. I don't even know if I know what my priorities are, the things that truly matter to me. But I knew that creativity was part of my healing. I picked up the camera and I just started this video diary. I started shooting 2 weeks after I was diagnosed. And then not long after that, I realized I wanted to connect with other young women who were going through their own cancer journey. Some of them going through traditional treatments, chemo, surgery, radiation. And I followed them for a year each. And then my journey for 4 years. This was my medicine, making this project and learning about food and stress reduction and exercise. That was the treatment for me. And for a long time, I wanted to be cured. Like I still had this belief that if I wasn't cured, I couldn't share the story. It's part of the reason why it took 4 years to make, because I kept pushing the timeline, thinking, well, maybe the next scan it'll be gone. And then I had to come to terms with the fact that I might have this forever, but just because I'm not cured doesn't mean I'm not healthy. I'm living with cancer. I'm thriving with stage 4 cancer. My disease is the slow-moving variety right now. And everything I've been doing for the last 15 years is to try to tip the odds in my favor of keeping it that way. This experience has taught me that I'm done trying to cure myself. I'm gonna do this healthy lifestyle, this abundant lifestyle that's filled with good nutrition, a healthy mindset, movement, a strong connection to spirit, community, doing my best to create a non-toxic environment in my home that I put on my body and so on. I'm going to do this for Kris and not cancer. And I'm going to live in a peaceful way. I'm going to do my best to coexist with this disease, and stability is enough for me. I don't need to be in remission. The disease, it's currently not active, but it is there. I call myself a thriver. I live with it, and somebody will come up to me at a book signing and say, congratulations for beating cancer. Congratulations for being in remission. So I still have a hard time getting that through to people, because I don't think anybody wants to believe that you can live with cancer, because it's kind of scary. So I'm 15 years now living with stage 4 cancer.